right, now we're going to welcome another architect. We're pleased to welcome Mike Huff, who has been practicing architecture for over 20 years. He graduated from the University of Cincinnati's School of Design, Architecture, Art, and Planning, and now specializes in sustainable design strategies for K through 12 schools. Tonight, he'll share more about his work inspiring the next generation through the student design competition. Welcome, Mike.
Thanks. You know, it's kind of funny. Everybody asks, well, why do you want to be an architect? I originally wanted to be a sculptor, but when I discovered that really architecture is essentially sculpture with toilets, I was like, oh, great, super. The AIA Student Design Competition is sponsored by AIA Dayton. So let's talk about actually what AIA is. The AIA is the American Institute of Architects. It's basically the advocacy group for architecture and designers. Its real purpose is to advocate for good communities and for good practices and best practices in design through legislation and other things. You know, it was founded in 1857. We got 90,000 members. One of the things that the AIA does is outreach, and you know, the student design competition is really there to expose kids to design as a profession and to promote design as a profession. So it gives them a chance to interact with other architects and designers, and to provide scholarships mainly. Got to have the money, right? And speaking of scholarships, most of the money that we get comes from private donations. So this was this year's donation list. The only exception would be Sinclair, which donates 18 credit hours credit hours for class time at Sinclair. But we had a great list this year for our group. This year, the 2018 program was the 37th annual program. It's typically a 3-month-long program open to all high school students within the region. Some students participate as a class, but most of them are from individuals. To date, we've given over $150,000 to kids pursuing careers in design. Past programs have included you know, a teen lounge and hangout, upscale bakery. We did a flood memorial, things of that nature. We also did, you know, tree houses, libraries, and then we did an internet cafe when that was like a thing, you know, back in ancient times. So that was actually one of the first ones I worked on, so that was kind of cool. Last year's program was the Stage at First Flight. This was a really exciting project for the kids because it was an actual real project that they had access to information from some of the contractors and could really you know, identify this as a real project. And I know that some of the students who participated last year were really interested in the development of this project. This year's project is a hostel along Flightline Park. This was a rendering provided by John White of the City of Dayton Planning Department. And basically there's an abandoned railway downtown, and what they plan to do with that is to redevelop it into an elevated park similar to what Chicago or New York have. And I think it's a wonderful idea, really exciting project. So our site is along 3rd and Kiowee with the red circle. You can kind of see the abandoned railway kind of bisecting our site. Ann Shanking with the City of Dayton gave a great presentation about the surrounding site. It's got a lot of rich manufacturing history with it, so she did a wonderful job. But one of the things we really wanted to do with this site, and this is different than other sites that we've chosen before, is that we've got an 18-foot elevation change from the streets to the railway. Most of the sites in the other projects have been pretty flat, so we really wanted the kids to think in 3 dimensions, and how do you solve the design problem of getting from the surface streets to that elevated parkway. So the process really began on January 20th with a charrette. This is where we describe the project. We go through a number of design exercises. All of the kids participate. They, you know, got to see the site and really get a sense of what, you know, we were kind of asking them about. And we went through a number of presentations about the history of the site. But one of the key things we tried to figure out and communicate was that a hostel is not a hotel. I think we're all familiar with, you know, Holiday Inn and you know, other hotels. They have, you know, sometimes opulent rooms. They are really geared for, you know, staying and not really for kind of community interaction. Sometimes there are meeting rooms and things like that, but really you have a nice cushy room, you go, you stay, and then you go out into the world and do your own thing, and maybe you go to another hotel. But a hostel is really more of a place for cultural exchange. It's really a place that travelers come in kind of a budget-oriented way to stay, to meet other people who are traveling, to share stories. It's more of a cultural exchange, a real place to talk to one another. And that's what really attracted us to this building type in this particular place. We went through a number of precedents. There are, the one characteristic of hostels is they really reflect the places where they are. So there are cabins in the woods, there's tropical, bungalows, castles. One of my favorites is this abandoned 747 in Sweden. It has nothing to do with Sweden, but it's really cool. But our program, it was a sleeping quarters for 50 folks. It had all of the necessary kind of accessory functions, bike storage and things of that nature. Our emphasis really was on that community kind of function, the cultural exchange. And I think that the kids really came up with some phenomenal concepts. But the presentation requirements were pretty simple. You have a 24 by 36 board. You got to have a site plan, a floor plan, sections, elevations, blah, blah, blah. We really didn't limit them on the type of presentation they could do. We discouraged song and dance, as that does not translate well into a board. But you got to draw the line somewhere. So the next part of the process were design reviews. These were held at design firms, and part of the process, or part of the reason for that, is to actually expose them to a design firm environment, to a studio culture. Also, we had an opportunity for them to talk about their designs with design professionals and get feedback for the next step of the process. Our award ceremony was here. Thank you, Dayton Metro Library. You've got an awesome place. It was on March 3rd. We gave away over $6,000 in scholarships this year, and it was just a great event. Everybody, was really excited, and I'm always excited, when I talk to the kids about this. We had a really great, diverse group of kids. Our big winners this year were from Dayton Regional STEM, Kayla Clark, also Lauren Bowling of Dayton Regional STEM. The Merit Scholarship is worth about $1,000. The Sinclair Community Pathways Scholarship is worth 18 credit hours. And then Gabriella Schaum from Oakwood High School, she won the $2,000 L2M scholarship. So I'm the chairman again for 2019. I'm really excited about starting the program. And